caused a gunman to open fire in a crowded airport yesterday, killing 5 and injuring 8.
Yeah, the gunman reportedly checking a gun in his luggage and loading it in the bathroom at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International before firing multiple shots. The attack prompting many to ask if stricter gun laws could have prevented this tragedy.
Florida Congressman Debbie Wasserman Schultz writing in a statement, quote, "Sadly, I fear we have witnessed yet another disturbing moment in our nation's ceaseless struggle with gun violence." Joining us now to weigh in, Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clark. Gun violence here, and the critics, Sheriff, are saying, look, how did he who turned himself into the FBI a few years ago because of what he was going through manage to get a gun, get on a plane, and unleash this carnage? What do you say to that?
Well, first of all, my thoughts and prayers are with the victims and the other people who were terrorized by this incident, this horrific incident. But, you know, the research is on the side of law-abiding gun owners here. You know, the left's automatic default is to go to gun control. Whenever there's some horrific tragedy in the United States, you know, they pull out their political agenda and see what they can check off. Let's see, Islamophobia, no, that one won't work. Racism, no, that one won't work. Oh, here, gun control, that one won't work, and then they go on that crusade. But the fact is that the average law-abiding gun owner would never engage in behavior like that. This is an anomaly, fortunately. It's still under investigation, a lot to be learned, but the worst thing that we can do right now is overreact and cause some law of unintended consequences to kick in as an individual, because the Second Amendment is an individual right. I know that if I was being picked up at the airport there by somebody, I would want to, for them to be able to be armed to at least intercede in an incident like this and maybe save some lives.
Sure. Sheriff, there's something about the airport where, you know, because of some attacks we've seen and the vulnerability of it. I've checked a gun lawfully and traveled with it. You may have as well. Are there extra measures, you know, baggage claim, waiting in line, that we have taken or should take in light of this, gun-related or otherwise?
Well, I think it's too early to determine, and that's why I said it might be dangerous to overreact at this point. However, and I want to let this investigation play itself out, but again, this is an individual right, and it should be left up to the individual in most cases. And I'm not talking about everybody being armed on the plane, but I'm talking about in some of these vulnerable areas. We know that airports are one of those, and these individuals also know these targets are chosen because they know there can be very few, if any, law-abiding people with a firearm that can defend other people in a horrific incident like this.
Yeah, Sheriff, I do also want to get your thoughts on what happened in Chicago this past week. This hate crime, the video that was uploaded to Facebook just still makes everyone feel so sick. You did have President Obama coming out calling it a hate crime, saying it was despicable, but at the same time, he said that the race relations are getting better. They have gotten better over his time in the 8 years. Here's what he said about that.
I promise you, for the most part, race relations have gotten better. But I think what we've seen over the last several years when it comes to tensions between police and communities, the internet, horrific hate crimes of the sort that we appear to have seen in this recent on Facebook today. Oh, it's terrible.
I mean, the numbers are staggering. You can pull these up. Murders in Chicago. You look back, 2012, 504, up to 2016, now 762 murders. You hear what the president just said, and the reality, there seems to be a real disconnect.
Well, the president is delusional about this. The New York Times, who thinks this president could do no wrong, came out with a survey not too long ago that showed that nearly 70% of people that were surveyed thought that race relations were worse under President Obama. So he's living in a dream world. But again, you know, you hear some of the other things that he said, pulled out his agenda. Look, oh, police. He brings up police and some of these other things. That this incident, where this guy was terrorized, had nothing to do with the police. But you know, here's some other questions that I've asked after looking through and sifting through the information that's come out on this. You know, who raised these miscreants? This is behavior from a black dysfunctional underclass that is growing and emerging in many American ghettos across the country, including Chicago, Baltimore, New York, Milwaukee, my hometown. And this is one of those instances where some of these behaviors, you know, the risk factors that lead to this sort of stuff, not causal factors, I said risk factors, things like parents or, you know, kids being born into single family homes, not all of them, but a lot of them, because we know when there's no father engaged in the raising and development of a young boy, oftentimes that young boy will grow up to be an unmanageable misfit, and that's what we have here, even though there are a couple of girls involved. So the left tries to tell us, don't be judgmental about some of these cultural aspects, but as if they're culturally redeeming and should be embraced. These behaviors like school failure, drug and alcohol abuse, gang involvement, those are culturally stunting. Those should be shunned and ridiculed. And the political class in these Democrat-run cities do something about the entrenched poverty, the school failure, the fact that people can't find meaningful employment and put people back to work, and the dysfunctional families and the environments that these kids grow up in, because violence is a learned behavior, then this stuff is going to continue to happen, unfortunately.
Well said. Sheriff David Clark, thanks for getting up early with us. We appreciate your analysis as always. Thanks,
Good
Sheriff.
to see you this morning.